Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my channel. I would like to introduce you the basic programming in Python today. And what I'd like to talk to you is a little different with other tutorial, is where we can use the easiest way, the most effective way to do coding in Python. What we do is we're gonna use something called Colab. Okay, have you ever used it? This is something coming from Google research, and that is something that everybody can use and for free. It is Python called notebook, and that is, I believe, the most effective way to learn Python. Okay, let's try to start it. So this is you can go to this called colab.research.google.com. If you click here, you see that colabresearch.google.com, and there are a list of one tutorial, and there are some. You can create something called IPYNB file, which is IPython notebook file. Okay, you can use it to do many things. Like say we use this for our coding. So it's complete free, and what you need is your computer with a web browser. You don't need to install anything. That is most, that will fit. So easiest way to do. You don't need to install anything, but if you like, certainly you can install your local Python environment. But let's focus on a Colab today. So you can create the very first one. You can create a new notebook, and I just have something I just created before it. So this is something called the basic Python notebook. I create this. I want to introduce you very beginning for today is very basic concept of Python. What is Python? What are variables? What is control flow? What are functions? Those are fundamentals in Python. Okay, so if you look at this interface, this is a very nice interface where you can do two things. One is you can add a piece of coding, or you can add a piece of text. Okay, so they have some formatting. Okay, you can use that to format your text, and you can use for coding. Each of those, we call it a sire. A sire can be used to execute your code, or can write a text to introduce some syntax or introduce the content. So let's see, this lecture one is basics of Python. So what we're going to do today is go through this basic concept. So what you can do is you can create a same Python notebook in Google Colab, and then you can follow me. We can do the same thing. All you need is, again, a web browser and have a Google Gmail account. And then once you have the account, you can use to do it. It's absolutely free, unless you want to go to some professional way that you need to pay a subscription fee. But regularly, if you do the personal, just you're not too heavy coding, too heavy computing, and you're able to do it by yourself. Okay, you don't need to do pay anything. All right, so let's start it. So you can see on the bottom here, it was something called connect. If you are not connected, once you connect it, it actually show you some kind of hardware information about your Colab. So it's like connect to a virtual machine on Google Cloud. So you all can do is you can see the status with the disk space, the RAM, and also you can do one thing is change the hardware accelerator. So regularly, if you don't need any accelerator, you can put it none. But if you do need a GPU or TPU to accelerate your program, we can do that later on. Okay, so now we can say just use none. We can try its basic things first. Okay, so let's close it. So as we said, there are two types of things you can add into your notebook. One is code, one is text. So every time you add into this, it will show a new empty cell. Let me show you something. For example, I want to show you this. Let's try to create a text. Okay, then we can see there are a list of formatting here you can use. And then let's say this is, you can type, this is our first lecture in Python. Okay, so you can do that. And then you can make this become some kind of sectional head, which makes it bigger, or you can make this like, you know, italic, or make it bold, whatever format you like to make. Okay, so all those things you see there are, I wrote that with this text. Okay, this formatting, you can have a list of items and you can start it. So what is Python? Python is an interactive programming language. It's really easy to use. It's a high-level language, so I would really highly recommend you to do that at the very beginning. If you want to learn computer science or learn coding, you may start from Python, which is something you feel that is easy to do. It's easy, can just grab it and very easy to start it. Okay, and also you can use this Colab to start it, which is much easier. So two things you might, where you get Python, right? So you can get, one is you can install everything locally, which is, I recommend something called Anaconda Python. Here's a link. If you click here, it will go to this page, which is Anaconda web page, and then you can install this package based on your OS, Windows, Mac, or Linux. You can install it. And Python can be used for regular program, used for computing, used for data science, used for visualization, used for gaming. So they can do a lot of things for using Python. Okay, so let's start it, the very first one. All right, so what I recommend for us to do is use the second option. We have the Colab. Here's website, it's at colab.research.google.com. Again, just try to use it for free, okay? And let's look into this. If you have it, if you have very first IPython notebook, we can start writing code. So what is Python? So again, we just say it's really easy to, let's create the first coding here. You know, for every single program, we all start from hello world, right? So this is hello world is our first coding. You see the pound sign in Python, that is a comment, which means it doesn't really ask you, it's just for your, give you some notes there, right? So how do we do a hello world in Python? So you can see all we do is use something called print. You have parentheses and use double quote, then we can see hello world. So then we can execute this line by either click the button here, or shortcut is press Shift plus your Enter key together. So if you do that, it will execute it. You see there's a check mark, and you see this is a sentence display there, and that is what we have, the print. Okay, so print is like the program start talk to you, show the results. So you will use a lot of print to show the results. Okay, hello world. And let's look at the very first element in coding is variables. So what are variables? Variables in any program, you see that you just define something that can hold values. Okay, we can give it a name that hold values. For example, we just say hello world. You see the double quote. That is a variable that is called a string type. It's a string type in Python. And you can also define some numbers. You can define list. You can define dictionaries. We will talk some of this today. It's for keep it simple. Okay, so how do we define them in coding? So what we do is, let's click the code here again. It's plus code. So we insert a sign that is between right after it. Then we can practice coding here. So let's see what is a string. So again, here, see, first we can define a name. For example, we can define my string equal to hello world. See, when you define a string, you need to have double quote, right? And then you can assign, this is assign equal sign, that means assign this to a variable we give a name, whatever name you like to give. That's, you can define your name, or you can say my name, or can say something like if you have John Smith or something like that. So give a special name, and then that is you can give a the name having assigned the value. So that's the all strings. Okay, so how about numbers? What are numbers? Numbers are, again, integer, float, long, complex. Let's just talk about integer and float this time. So integer are whole numbers. So like say if you have x equal to 1, so what is x? X is 1, right? What is y? Y equal to 2. Then that is y equal to 2. What is z? Z equal to x plus y. So you can see we actually have 3 variables here. They are integer, x, y, z, and then you can just use them, right? And then what is float? We can see a equal to 3.14. So that is a float. Okay, this is a float. So float, you can see floating point right here, right? So that is a float. So you can do something like b equal to a times x, what it would be. So we could print the values of those variables by using print. Let's say I want to print b. What is b? B is 3.14 because a is 3.14, x is 1. So what if we change that to y? You can see that it changed. So it changed from the 3.14 to 6.28, right? So that's a variable. You can give any variable you like in Python, and then you can just use them to print them and compute them, doing any arithmetic calculation. Okay, so we can do one more thing, which is list. I like to show you a list. What is a list? A list, okay, it's just a list of items. So what are items? Item can be anything. In Python, can be a number, can be float, can be string, can be a dictionary, can be anything you can put into a list. So what is a list? Let's try to create a list. My list equal to, in Python, a list is something start with square bracket. Okay, everything should inside this square bracket. So let's try to put some numbers here. 1, 2, 3, let's say 5, 7, 9, just random numbers. So how many numbers do we have? We just have 6 numbers in this my list. So what you can say, what is my list? You can print my list, right? So you can get a list of numbers, right? So what if you want to insert something into my list? I can say you can have some function called mylist.append. So let's say if I want to append 100, what that means is actually append a number 100 at the end of this list. Okay, I can also append insert. We can also insert something here. If you want to insert, you see they actually give you some kind of some hints here to show you. If you tap insert, it gives you 2 variables here. The first one is index, second one is object, which means where you want to insert it. Let's say I want to insert at very beginning. The very beginning index is actually 0, and if I want to insert something like 10, for example. So what do we got? I put a 10 into very beginning. Let's insert the 0 is index, so at the very beginning I put 10 into it. So now we got our list. We keep modify our list to get longer. But also your list can be not just number, you can also have, let's say append hello. We can do that as well. So look at your list, not just numbers, but also some string. And also another variable you may have is we call the Boolean type, right? The Boolean type is, let's say, check equal to true. So Boolean type is either true or false. So we say Boolean type is true or force. In Python, you have to use capital T or capital F to say that it's a keyword true or false, right? So so you can say check true. So we can actually possibly put the check into this. So you can say my list dot insert. So I would like to put into my second place and put the check into this. So what we got? So then my check here is true and it's in the second place. Insert index is 1. So in Python, same as C++, everything starts from 0. So when you talk about index, so these are values inside the list, but everything has index, which means it's starting with first, second, third, but the first in the list is index is 0. We start with 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so those are lists. Okay, so we have talked about the basic things for Python now. So hopefully we are getting there for very basic concept. The next one we do is more interesting is control flow. So what is control flow? A control flow is somehow when we put the logic in your coding, you do more interesting, not just some variables, but we can say if, then, else. That's the first logic. It's very, very important logic, simple, but be used everywhere. So if, then, else, what that means is if that is true, then you do this. Else, you do something else, okay? So let's say if, this is the syntax in Python if you use if. So let's say check, if check equal to true, right? And in Python, you use a colon here to indicate this is something that I haven't finished yet. I need to continue to the next line. So here, so some line you need to have is this construct if or the loop. We'll show you later on. The if and loop, you have used colon indicating, oh, I have the if first part, I haven't finished yet, I need to go to the second part. Okay, so if that is true, then what I do something else. So I'll say a equal to 10, all right? I just make them up. Else, okay, so you see then I use colons y, but you see there's some kind of underlines showing there's something wrong here. When you see this underline, that means that something's wrong with your coding. So what's wrong? Python is a certain format. So every time it's if you under the if here, you have to have the indent. Look at this. Have indent, have some space. So meaning that a equal to 0 is under the if condition. So if that's true, then I do this. So a equal to 10 is under this. And else is not under if, it's in parallel with if, so same level. So you have to remove this indent. So make this on the same level. See, now it's gone. Now we say then a equal to, let's say 20. Okay, so let's say what we have. So let's want to print a. So in this case, what is a? What is the answer of a? So you can see that the answer is 10 because check is true. Setup is true. So then that go to here, then go to there. All right, so that's if. Okay, so that is a if else. So what is next one? We can see the next one we can do is for loop. Loop is simple. Loop is repeat. Okay, just remember this. Loop is to repeat. So what is repeat? You just try to repeat it many, many times. How many times you want to repeat? You decide it. Okay, so let's make it loop. So loop in Python, we can use something called for. Okay, so we call for loop. This is pretty classical in coding C++. I use loop with for. So I in range, so you can put like 10. So what that means is I want to have I, which is in the range, if you put a number 10 there, that means this range is starting from 0 to 9. You see, it's 0 to 9. It doesn't include 10. It's just starting from 0 all the way to less than 10. So what do we have? We have 10 numbers. So what you can see, and let me just try to print it. You see that this is a repeat. This print will be repeated 10 times, but every time the I is changing in the loop. So I start from 0, you print I, which is 0, and the next time I become 1, then you print 1. So let's try to run this code. Again, to run this code, you can either click the button here, or for me, I like to use Shift Enter. So you see, oh, we have a list of numbers displayed right there. So it's printed 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's what we have. So you can change it whatever you like and do some calculation here, which will be more interesting. Okay, so let's make a simple case here. Let's make a sum. Okay, let's try to make a sum equal to 0 at the beginning. Let's try to sum from 0 to 100. Okay, let's try to write something here on the sum all the numbers of 0, you can say 0 to 100. So this means that I want to go all the way to 0 to 100, but I want to use this parenthesis. That means that I want to less than 100. I want to say 0 to 99. Okay, so how do I do the coding for this? I can start with a sum equal to 0, and then I can go to a loop in range. So since I will go to 100, I write 100 into this, and every time I try to accumulate my sum by equal to I. So this means sum plus equal to I, which means you will increment the sum by I. The I is from 0 all the way to 99. So what would be the answer for this? Now you can print sum. Let's try to print it. So this will be the answer, 4950. That is the answer for print sum. Okay, so this is very simple code. You just try to go through all the sums. You can see Python, you can do it pretty quickly by just writing this piece of code, and that makes it happen. Okay, so let's go over the very last one today, and so we can finish this tutorial. This functions. What is function? So function in Python is try to grab, modularize your coding. Okay, if you want to repeat this sentence, we call it function. Function can do a certain thing. Function also return a value. So this is what you have. When you do Python, you need to use keyword define to create a function and give function name, function parameters. They have function body, and you have return a value. Okay, so that's pretty much what you have. Let's create a new coding here. Let's try to create a function. Let's create a function called addition here. So the first thing you do is you have def, define a function, then have a function name. Let's say the function name is add, and then we can have add. Typically you add two numbers, right? You add a and b, and these two, a and b, called parameters for your function. And then you have colon, indicating you write your body of your function. Okay, so this function body. So what do we have? So if you see that something like a plus b, that is the result if you want to add them together. And in Python, you can see something like you can return a plus b. That's very easy way to do. And you can just say a plus b, and then that is you can return the value. The value is a plus b. So let's try to say if we can define it. We don't see any problem. So let's see, that is to define a function here. So how do we use it? We can just use it by call this name, type its name, name is add, and then we can add in two numbers. Let's say 1 plus 2, right? So what is equal to? That equal to 3, because what you do is a plus b, you got 3. Okay, so that is simple, but also we can have, maybe you can create another one called sum, which you can have, give a list of numbers and they can add them together, go one by one. Okay, so this is a very beginning for the Python coding. And again, today we just talk about very simple beginning case about Python. But nice thing I hope you learn is that you can use Colab to do Python. You can write Python very nicely by create this tags. You can write it like your notebook, right? Put some notes there and then put some coding here, and you can execute this program. You can get answer. You can turn this into your, if you do something like for homework, or if you just for fun, this is what you do. You can keep them, everything is stored in your Google Drive. So it's very nice. So let's try to see if you can do some homework today. Okay, we can talk about next time how to do it, but I think you probably is able to do it yourself. Okay, let's say what is your homework. The homework is create a list of numbers and calculate the average value. Okay, so let's see if you have list of numbers. Let's say my numbers equal to a list of them. Let's try to create something like 1, 2, just randomly create something, right? Whatever you like. You can create this just 6 number. You can have create 1,000 numbers, whatever you like. And then I just try to add all those together, divide by the total number I have. So I would be happy if you create something like create a function to do it, or you can just write a code, just say no function, just write plain Python code, that's fine. Okay, just try to do it and return the average value. So that is your first homework. I'm sure you're able to do it. I will see you next time.